it looked cooler in my head. But anyways, how you guys doing? So Amazing Spider-Man comes out in a few days here in the States, but obviously if you live in the UK or Australia or wherever, you probably have already gotten it. But I kind of feel like that that in order to get us ready for Amazing Spider-Man 2, we take a step back into memory lane and review Amazing Spider-Man 1. Things first, I just want to say, you're looking at probably one of the biggest Spidey fans in the world. I grew up literally obsessed with the comic books, and I grew up obsessed with the cartoons, with the 90s Fox Kids Spider-Man show, Spider-Man Unlimited, which I think was like the weakest Spider-Man cartoon in my childhood. The MTV Spider-Man, which I actually think is kind of underrated. Actually, it should get some more love. And Spectacular Spider-Man, which should have gotten a lot more seasons because this was just awesome. I'm not going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man because I'll be honest, I don't like that show. I remember when I first heard the news that they were going to reboot, the whole Spider-Man movie franchise. I was up for it because I think Spider-Man 3, first of all, I hate Spider-Man 3. I absolutely hate it. And I think that, we've entered a different era of superhero movies. The superhero movies were different from the superhero movies that were like in the early 2000s. So I think it makes sense to reboot the whole thing and see what new things we can discover. And so The Amazing Spider-Man this time is directed by Mark Webb. Now Mark Webb, if you don't know, he directed 500 Days of Summer, which I really liked, and he directed, music videos for AFI, like the Miss Murder music video, and he directed the 21 Guns Green Day music video, and I think he also directed the Boulevard of Broken Dreams and Holiday video. So he's a really really good director. And so the story of The Amazing Spider-Man is that we are doing the origin story again, but we've got some new elements to it that we haven't seen before, such as the mystery about Peter Parker's parents and how it relates to Oscorp and the Lizard. And at the same time, we see like Peter Parker's first love, who's Gwen Stacy in the comic books. We see basically, in my opinion, a more faithful adaptation of the Spider-Man comic books, because when it comes to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, I used to like them as a kid, but now as an adult, I watch them and I really don't like them because they're so dated and so goofy and so over the top. And The Amazing Spider-Man, for me, it's not as over the top, and it's not goofy. It's for me, it's Spider-Man. The thing that makes this Amazing Spider-Man more better than I think the Sam Raimi Spider-Man's is the cast. Like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, he kills it as Spider-Man. This dude, I think he was born to play Spider-Man, to be honest with you, because he was just so perfect in it. And I think what makes him perfect is that he pulls off the nerdiness really well, Peter Parker. He does the Spider-Man persona really good, especially with the Spidey sarcasm. At the same time, he could pull off as a high school student. That was always my main problem with Tom Maguire's Spider-Man, is that you couldn't really see him pull off as a high school student. He just looked too old for that, And even though Andrew Garfield was 26 or 27 when they filmed this movie, he looks like he's 18 or something. And I know the big complaint about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is that, he's a bit of an asshole. And let me just say one thing. He's a teenager. Teenagers are assholes. They will... when The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was being made, and when it came out, I literally just graduated from high school. So... it totally depicts a high school student well, you know what I mean? And the other, complaint they have about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is that Peter Parker is that, he's a hipster skateboarder. He can't be a nerd. And I think, we live in a different era now, of what's defined as a nerd and what's defined as an outsider. And I think that Mark Webb and the crew, they sort of said to themselves, okay, what would be defined as an outsider in 2012? And that's a hipster skateboarder. And I think it makes sense. I think you can make him a Peter Parker hipster skateboarder as long as you give him his Peter Parkerisms, which are his intelligence and his humor. I think you're good right there, And even the costume, I love the Spider-Man costume. It looks homemade. It looks straight out of the Ultimate Spider-Man. And I also really like that, even his physique looks like Spider-Man. Because I always thought Tom Maguire is too bulky as Spider-Man. And I really like that Andrew Garfield is slim, which is exactly how Spider-Man is meant to look. but he's still got muscle with it, some muscle tone, but he's mostly slim, and I love that, you know. And then you got Gwen Stacy, played by Emma Stone, who, she's just awesome in this movie. I really like her. I really like the fact that she's nerdy enough for Peter Parker, and that's another thing that Peter Parker kind of goes through, is that he goes through sort of a confidence change as he becomes Spider-Man, because the Spider-Man suit makes him confident, and he's able to sort of try to land the girl of his dreams. And I really like the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. You know, it works well together. I mean, it's got to work well because, you know, they're a real life couple. But I think it works really good. And the rest of the cast is just great. I mean, Dennis Leary's Captain Stacy is awesome. Martin Sheen and Sally Field as Aunt May and Uncle Ben, they're great. Rhys Ifans as Kurt Connors and the Lizard, I thought he did all right. One of the big sort of complaints about this movie is that, oh, it's too dark. Because it's too dark. It's not like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies at all. And I think, first of all, my main problem with this has always been the fact that people are so tied to the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans that they weren't trying. The thing is, the Amazing Spider-Man wasn't trying to be the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. It was trying to be more truer to the comics, and that's what it did. And second of all, I don't really think it's dark, because I think there's a difference for me between dark and taking yourself seriously. And I think the Amazing Spider-Man took itself more seriously, but it's not dark. Because when I think of a dark superhero movie, I think of like Batman Begins or The Crow. You know, just those sort of dark. Those are like dark superhero movies to me. Yeah, there's still some humor in The Amazing Spider-Man, but it's like toned down a little bit. It's not like, you know, you see Peter Parker dancing on the street doing a Saturday Night Fever strut and things like that, or it's not like Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head is playing randomly. It works for the story, I think, and that's why I like the humor in this a lot. I really like the action in this movie. You know, the action's pretty cool. It's straight out of the Spider-Man comic books, and I also like that throughout the movie you see some Spidey POV shots, which I really like, because you get a chance to see how Spider-Man sees the world through his eyes, and that shit is always really cool to me. And it's just really exciting. It's even more exciting if you saw it in 3D. I know I did, and I was just like exhilarated by it, you know. So there's that, man. And like, I guess my complaints about this movie, first of all, it's a minor complaint, but it's James Horner's score. Now, I think James Horner is a fantastic composer. He's one of my favorites. I think you look at like his scores like Braveheart, Aliens, Commando, Avatar, whatever. He just does great scores. But the thing about his Amazing Spider-Man score, it's good, but it's not memorable. It's not like I'm gonna be, you know, walking down the street. It's not like, or like going for a jog, and I'm just, you know, I just decided to listen to James Horner's score, because it won't stick. It doesn't stick in my head, you know. It's not like the Danny Elfman Spider-Man score or the Hans Zimmer Spider-Man score, where you just want to listen to it over and over again, you know. But my main complaint about it is the way they did the Lizard, because in the comic books, Dr. Connors and the Lizard were like way two different people. Like, Dr. Connors was like this nice, innocent scientist, and the Lizard was just this, you know, maniac. And the way they did in this movie, it's almost like they were basically the same person. And I kind of thought that was kind of weak, and even though there might be some other person in his head, they don't really sort of fully explain it. You know, but that's really like my only complaints about it. But aside from that, I love The Amazing Spider-Man. It is one of my all-time favorite superhero movies. I could watch it over and over again. I love it. You know, it's still really, it's such a great superhero movie to me. It was, for me, this was Spider-Man. This was the Spider-Man I knew and loved and I grew up with. I walked out of the theater as satisfied as ever. I loved it. And I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man an A-. I love it, man. And, you know, I just hope that in the second Amazing Spider-Man we get, you know, questions answered, and I hope I hope I walk out as satisfied as I was when I saw the first Amazing Spider-Man. So, yeah, there's that. So, The Amazing Spider-Man, what do you think about it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? I mean, what do you think? What do you think about Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker? Do you think he's doing a good job so far? So, comment below and let me know, and subscribe if you want to, man.